Know this. I have the power to slay all of the Titans that block our path, even if I have to do it alone.
Among the greatest human warriors in Attack on Titan stands Mikasa Ackerman. She's a strong female character who is a badass and displays strength among the greatest in the show. However, even with her strengths and the ability to overcome adversity and terrible struggles, Mikasa is saddled with at least one major, very detrimental, unhealthy attachment. She's sworn to protect a genocidal maniac by her blood, the curse of the Ackermans. She is forced to protect a ridiculously delusional child who has too much power to know what to do with. Welcome to class. This is Anime Psychology 101, and today we're looking at unhealthy attachments.
I made a promise to your mom before she died. I'm not letting you die. I've got your back whether you like it or not, so just deal with it.
Mikasa Ackerman was raised with Eren Yeager in the family of Grisha Yeager. She is brought into the story as a sort of adopted child, adopted sibling to Eren. We know that she oftentimes would stand up for Eren inside the walls against his bullies, and later we would find out that she'd also defend him outside of the walls. Now, why exactly did she have such devotion to him from the beginning? Mikasa is a strong character who is brave, disciplined, and a skilled soldier. I believe these are aspects of her person without any outside influence that would have been possible for her to tap into, regardless of what other situational conditions surround her character. Her love for Eren is not a toxic thing. Caring for those that are close to you is not a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with her natural desire to care for Eren, especially as we see he's a bit more naive to the world than she is. He's an optimist through and through, until the truth is truly displayed to him. Then he falls completely into despair. She, however, knows from the beginning that there are horrible things lurking around every corner, even within the walls of the city. She's a realist, and can cope with the unraveling of the world much better than Eren is capable of.
No way. I'm not leaving you alone. I won't take another chance.
Knock it the hell off!
However, her devotion to Eren does seem unnatural at certain times. It is a plot point that we can't just psychoanalyze away. The conception of the curse of the Ackermans must be dealt with. Was the curse the cause for her attachment, or is there something else lurking that we have yet to discover? So what exactly is the curse of the Ackermans? The curse was that the Ackerman bloodline was sworn to protect the bloodline of the royal kings of Eldia. They are not slaves to the Titan Ymir, but they were still genetically pressed into the service of the kings of Eldia, basically as bodyguards. They were sworn to protect. There's a lot of speculation as to exactly what the Ackermans are required by the curse to do. I will lay out what I think it is as shortly as possible. The Ackerman bloodline is sworn to defend and to protect the kings of the Eldians, and or someone with royal blood, should the right be invoked by the king, aka whoever holds the founding titan's power. Thus, what started out as simply a proactive and protective instinct towards Eren turns into an almost just a compulsion to protect Eren. But is that true? In short, no. There is no basis to believe that there actually is any type of Ackerman curse or bond. Certain people do tend to build more devoted relationships with other people, and you can receive a personality from your parents that causes you to possibly be a more selfless person than other people. However, there is no curse. There is nothing that is real that is compelling Mikasa to act the way she does, other than just her devotion and her love for Eren. Now, everything I've just said has contradicted itself several times, but in reality, it's just another very complicated aspect of Attack on Titans. The curse of the Ackermans is actually nothing more than a placebo that Eren tries to use as an explanation for Mikasa's actions. He's trying to distance himself from her so that she is no longer attached to him, so that he can freely commit genocide and not let her get dragged down by his actions. We see in his conversation with Mikasa and Armin basically calls Eren out for being ridiculous, but it has no effect on snapping Mikasa out of her attachment because of a trick that Eren used to convince her that he was right. The trick was placing a real stimulus mixed in with what he made up as the concept of the Ackerman curse. He told her that the migraines that she had was a symptom related to her powers, and because Mikasa, for the most part, already trusted Eren, she believed what he was saying even more after having circumstantial evidence that supported what he had just told her, of saying that she was a slave to the curse. We can tell from this exchange that while Armin is taken aback by Eren's words, he doesn't believe him outright. But then, Mikasa immediately acts to stop Armin from punching Eren, solidifying for herself, even more, that her destiny is to protect and defend Eren as the founding titan, and not simply the boy that she's loved all of her life. One question I'll leave on the table here is this: did she know that he had the founding titan at this point?
Why does he do it? Always leave. Always end up someplace we're not.
Mikasa and Eren's relationship was already very complicated in my opinion. Eren was her best friend. Armin was cool too, but Eren lived with her. She killed without hesitation as a child to protect him. She had stood up to Annie when she took him, and continued to fight for him even when she opposed his decisions. We see Mikasa's attachment to Eren through the scarf that he gives her, which she keeps with her for the entirety of the series. Even once Eren is gone, she's still holding onto the scarf. And we would like to think that she simply holds onto it because she wants to remember Eren by it. However, is that really the case? Is it possible that she desires to hold onto him forever and not let go of her ideal of who she wanted him to be?
I'll see you later, Eren.
So, exactly what kind of attachment would we call this? What sits behind the theory of attachment? Well, attachment theory is largely based on John Bowlby, who was a British psychologist. Attachment theory is based primarily on a child's attachment style towards their parents or caregiver, because this is the first attachment that a child builds in life. It will oftentimes give clues to how the child will attach with people in other types of relationships as well. There are 4 main attachment styles that children develop. One is secure attachment, which is the best case scenario. Anxious, ambivalent attachment, which is defined by hypervigilance and clingy behavior because the child isn't getting consistent reinforcement that they are loved. Thirdly, avoidant attachment develops when a child's parent is emotionally distant or rigid with the child. This can also be summed up by a child growing up to believe that if you rely on others, you will somehow lose your independence. Finally, you have disorganized attachment. This is often the result of abuse, either physical or emotional. This is often displayed through a lack of empathy, poor communication skills, and a child who is not good at understanding issues that people deal with in actual relationships. They often are craving attention or affection from their parent, but at the same time, they fear being injured or hurt by that very same parent or caregiver. If we look at Mikasa's upbringing, unfortunately, disorganized attachment is probably the most accurate in describing how she would have developed attachments throughout her life. Her birth parents were murdered by human traffickers before she was taken into the Jaeger home. Once she arrived in the Jaeger's home, we start to see her grow into a fine young woman. However, her adoptive parents, Grisha Jaeger, is often gone on business, and then Eren's mother is killed by Grisha's first wife. We also see Grisha's mind slowly decay and fall into despair under the influence of Eren's future self interacting with him in the past. Mikasa is basically left with just Eren and Armin as a substitute family, going through her formative years as a young teen with no one but the military to guide her. This is a government's dream scenario. Getting to build a super soldier with no consequence to the state and let all the burden lie on the individual soldier who is easily manipulated by how broken her upbringing was. As Eren and Mikasa's relationship progresses, it moves through many different stages like most relationships do. We see Eren slowly build hostility towards Mikasa, however, as the show gets to the climax, but we find that the only reason he tried to put a barrier between them was because he knew that he was going to have to die. He didn't want her to remain attached to him forever. Mikasa, after Eren's death, ends up marrying Jean, and we can assume that they live happily ever after. Or at least I hope they did. They deserve a little peace and happiness after all that went down and everything that they experienced, in my opinion. Mikasa's unhealthy attachment never would have been broken had Eren not put up a barrier between them, forcing her away from him. She was clinging to him, even though a lot of the time it seemed like he was the weak one. In reality, she was the one needing his affirmation and confirmation what she was doing was right. It wasn't until she stepped away from relying on Eren that she was able to truly step into her own destiny and her own personal development. Oftentimes, we don't see what is unhealthy for ourselves when it comes to emotional trauma or emotional healing. It's very easy to see unhealthy eating habits forming or know that we haven't gone for a walk or gotten any exercise lately, but it's much harder to mentally push yourself to question your relationships with people that you rely on. Sometimes, when you get to questioning or testing these relationships, you find out that they are much stronger and they're healthy. Other times, you find out that you are bringing an unhealthy friendship or relationship with you. However you cut it, take stock of the relationships in your life and judge whether they are built on healthy attributes like trust, love, loyalty, and growth, or are they built on fear, dependence, and negativity. Remember, Mikasa didn't want to leave Eren, but in the end, she was forced to in order to move into the future. That's all for today's lesson. This has been Anime Psychology 101, and we'll see you in the next lesson.